5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to the MCTV Weekly News Update. I'm Margaret Bruetsch.
And I'm Peter Malavenda. We've got a lot in store for you today, so let's jump right into today's top story. Yemen continues to face political trouble as native security forces carry out arrests on injured activists inside medical centers. Human Rights Watch reported that several gunfights have occurred in hospitals, with the conflict between patients and security forces has threatened to shut down healthcare in the city of Aden, where most of the attacks have occurred. Staff members were beaten and a 16-year-old fruit vendor was shot in the head during an incident in early October. The attacks are part of an attempt by the Yemeni government to arrest patients linked to Hirak, a group seeking restoration of the southern state, which merged with Yemen in 1990. A medic at one of the hospitals where attacks were held noted that, quote, "These raids did not obstruct the hospital's delivery of services, but did cause panic, worry, and concern among patients and staff." Central Security Forces, led by a nephew of former President Saleh, is responsible for many of the assaults.
This isn't the only site of unrest this week. For the past 2 years, the Obama administration has been working on a blueprint for tracking terrorists, known as the Disposition Matrix. The program contains the names of terrorist suspects alongside the resources being currently used to track them, even making future plans for those located outside of the reach of American drones. The Matrix is currently a work in progress, but shows how America will continue to be a part of the capturing and killing of terrorists for some time into the future, despite the fact that some of our troops are beginning to come home. Officials in the Obama administration believe that anti-terrorist operations are going to continue for at least the next decade, considering that there is no way to possibly capture every person who is a possible threat to the United States. There are downsides to the continued drone operations, however. There is the possibility of some 3,000 or more civilian deaths as a result of misfired drones, which is actually more than the amount killed by al-Qaeda in the September 11th attacks. The Matrix is just one part of the counterterrorism operation that also includes an expansion of drones and new targeting centers in the U.S. More efforts will continue into the future. What do you think, Peter?
I think it's good that President Obama is furthering his anti-terrorist plan. I think this new technology can help us get a lot of terrorists, but I think it's unfortunate that so many civilian lives are going to be compromised because of this. What do you think?
I think it's sad that so many civilians have to die for us to get the bad guys.
Well, in more political news, we have reaction to Monday night's debate and what was said from around the world. China was discussed during the debate. CNN's Stan Grant has more from Beijing.
China needs to play fair. That was the message from both candidates during the debate. The China issue wasn't a first-order issue in the debate. In fact, it was the last topic raised. Both men trying to play tough with China. Barack Obama pointing to the fact that he's brought successful cases against China to the World Trade Organization. As far as Mitt Romney is concerned, he was saying that China needs to play fair, especially when it comes to intellectual property and the question of currency, that China keeps its currency deliberately low to give it an export advantage. Now, Mitt Romney saying he would declare China a currency manipulator on day one of his presidency. Well, China has responded, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs saying regardless who wins the presidential election, the relationship between China and the United States needs to be based on trust. It needs to be a win-win.
U.S. politicians from both parties should view China's development in an objective and rational light, and they should be responsible for China-U.S. relations and contribute more to mutual trust and cooperation, which is also in the interest of the United States.
Now, this relationship is not just about trade. China is an emerging superpower rival to the United States. Over recent months, the US has pivoted its geostrategic policy to focus much more on Asia, building key relationships in the region, even putting more troops on the ground. China, in some people's minds, see this as an attempt to try to contain China's rise. Now, Barack Obama's words here, China can either be an adversary or a partner. Stan Grant, CNN, Beijing.
Not only did China have something to say in reaction to the American presidential debates, Israel reacted to the debate as well. CNN's Sarah Sidner has more from Jerusalem.
Israel was brought up in this debate time and time again, perhaps only second to Iran. What you heard from the candidates, although, seemed like they were very much in agreement, mostly when it comes to the U.S.-Israel relationship. But Mr. Romney did try and talk about what is a perceived split between Mr. Obama and Israel, in particular between him and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, talking about the fact that President Obama, when he came to the Middle East, he visited a bunch of countries, but did not visit Israel, and he said that that was certainly noticed in the region. Mr. Obama countered, saying that when he came here as a candidate, he came here, he went to visit places where Israelis had been hit, where their neighborhoods had been hit by rockets. He came here to visit the museum here for the Holocaust, and he was not here with sponsors and not here to do fundraisers, so they both got a dig in each on each other. But all in all, they talked about the relationship between the U.S. and Israel, and talked about how much Israel means to the United States and that it's its greatest ally in the region. You also heard from them the talk of Iran, and of course that is the #1 foreign policy issue here that has been spoken about time and again by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the top issue really in Israel at this point in time. And Mr. Obama and Mr. Romney both talked about the fact that something had to be done to watch Iran, and that they would be by Israel's side, although neither of them said that. They both said basically that military action would be absolutely the last resort. So a lot of talk about Israel, a lot of talk between the two potential presidents, next presidents of the United States, but not a lot of difference between what they see as the policy. And of course, they're trying to take digs at each other. But when it comes to Israelis and those who are going to be watching this very closely, because they do realize how important the relationship is with the United States, they listen to these debates with a grain of salt, if you will, because these high stakes last debates, really what they're seeing is, okay, we're going to listen to that, but what they're very concerned about is exactly what happens once someone gets into the White House, and that's where it really matters, because that's where policy is made. Sarah Seidner, CNN, Jerusalem.
So have you watched the debates?
I did. I watched the last 2 of the 3.
What'd you think?
I thought they were going to actually get into a fight at Hofstra.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did watch some of them. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in November. Well, this next story is one that is shaking the scientific world literally. 6 Italian scientists and a government official are being charged with manslaughter due to their failure to predict the deadly L'Aquila earthquake. Experts worldwide are outraged because of the convictions. Seismologists everywhere are expressing their frustration, stating that there is no way to accurately predict an earthquake. This case brings up a very strong notion that if scientists are held liable for forecasts they do and do not make, then there is a real threat of a chilling effect on them. Associate Professor in the Earth Sciences faculty at the University of California, Riverside, David Oglesby says that this will make it, quote, very hard to find scientists to stick to their necks out in the future. The quake reported more than 300 deaths and was recorded with a magnitude of 6.3 on the Richter scale. The scientists and government officials were sentenced to 6 years in prison and ordered to pay nearly 8 million euros, about $10 million, for the inaccurate prediction. They said there was a very small likelihood this quake would even take place, so when it struck with vengeance, no one was prepared, and it resulted in all the deaths. Those convicted are appealing the case and will remain free until the end of the appeals process.
Another court case that is making the news involves some monsters and parents. The makers of Monster energy drinks are facing a lawsuit following the death of a 14-year-old Maryland girl. The lawsuit, filed in California, claims the teen died of heart problems after drinking 2 Monster drinks in 2 days. According to the lawsuit, that amounts to the caffeine found in 14 12-ounce cans of Coca-Cola. The family is suing Monster for failing to warn about the drink's dangers. In a statement, Monster Beverage says it's, quote, saddened by the death, but does not believe its beverages are responsible for the girl's death. The Food and Drug Administration has received reports of 5 deaths involving Monster energy drinks, but the FDA has not established a direct link in any case. So, what do you think, Peter?
That's terrible. You know, so many people are drinking energy drinks, and there's so many kinds, but it's just a very unfortunate situation, and people are going to have to watch themselves. Well, health is becoming more and more important in today's society, and although doctors say being overweight is unhealthy, it's where you carry your fat that makes a difference in your overall health. Now, new research may be looking at ways to help people cut down on these fatty areas with a possible injection. More details in today's Health Minute.
Obesity is a problem in the U.S., By the year 2030, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention predicts 42% of Americans will be obese. And what makes matters worse, many of these people carry the bulk of their fat in their bellies, which studies have shown can lead to all sorts of health problems.
Diseases like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, certain types of cancer.
Now researchers at Ohio State's Comprehensive Cancer Center are finding that injecting a tiny capsule of heat-generating cells into the tummies of mice help them turn their white or bad fat, which stores fats in the body, into brown fat. Brown fat is good because it revs up the metabolism, which led the mice to initially lose about 20% of belly fat after 80 days of treatment.
We call it thermogenic fat.
Over time, the mice did gain some weight back, but it wasn't dramatic. But most importantly, researchers found the injection also caused a reduction in visceral fat, which is fat that surrounds the organs and is a main factor in serious conditions such as heart disease. If the vaccine is developed for humans, it will more than likely not be used as a weight reduction device just yet, but more for those who are incapable of exercising, such as the elderly or physically impaired. For today's Health Minute, I'm Holly Furfer.
In other news, gas is expected to get cheaper as the holidays get closer. AAA reports that prices have fallen over the past 11 days to a national average of $3.67 a gallon. The price may also drop another 30 cents by November 22nd, Thanksgiving Day. Analysts say drivers can be thankful for the wholesale prices of gas dropping. They say this decline happens every year because Americans are driving less than they were during the summer. Another reason is that refineries are making a cheaper winter blend of gasoline.
Well, with all that money you will be saving at the pump, here's the next new thing Apple has brought to the world. The hottest new tech item may be small enough for Santa to stuff in your stocking, if you have a big foot. It's the iPad mini just revealed by Apple, but smaller is really better? Stacey Cohen reports.
The cloak and dagger nature of Apple's announcements have become expected rather than innovative. But will the same be true of its latest device, the iPad mini? About an hour into a press event, the world finally got answers.
This is iPad mini.
Here are the basics. The iPad mini has a 7.9-inch screen, about 1/3 smaller than the previous iPad, and weighs less than a pound. The mini is also 23% thinner than the full-sized iPad. But the late Steve Jobs, one of Apple's founders, once said a tablet should never be smaller than 10 inches. So what gives? One word: competition.
Google has launched the Nexus 7. You've got the Kindle Fire, and a lot of people are buying these, and these are cheaper, smaller tablets.
How much cheaper? The Kindle Fire costs $159. Google's Nexus 7 is $199, about $300 cheaper than the current iPad model. The new iPad mini starts at $329. And Schiller went out of his way to call out the competition's tablets for being heavier, made of plastic, and for what he says is sacrificing quality to obtain a 7-inch screen.
The iPad mini is actually over 1/3 larger display area, 35%. That's a huge difference.
Customers will get a chance to see for themselves soon enough. Pre-orders begin Friday. I'm Stacey Cohen reporting.
The entertainment world is also booming, with gossip, that is. Lindsay Lohan's father pulls another publicity stunt, and Mad TV viewers get their Mad Men back. Here's more.
Lindsay Lohan is feuding with her father again. Michael attempted to stage an intervention for alcohol and drug abuse last week after the troubled star failed to show for a shoot. Her dad spoke to Entertainment Tonight, claiming his daughter's friends and legal team were all on board with the plan.
Lindsay's team was waiting to come by the house, and before we could do anything, she took off and went to another hotel.
Lindsay's rep denies her management participated in any intervention. Hollywood lovebirds Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel are finally coming out with details about their top-secret Italian wedding last week. Timberlake tells People magazine the evening was magical, and Jessica called it a fantasy. The celebration lasted several days and included a beach party and fireworks. And Dish Network customers can breathe a sigh of relief. The company has finally settled a lawsuit with Cablevision and AMC that kept hit shows like Mad Men and The Walking Dead off customers' TV since July. Dish agreed to pay $700 million to AMC Networks. For Hollywood Minutes, I'm Christina Muchler.
And just when you think you've heard it all, a Colombian housewife claims to have been raised by monkeys after being kidnapped and abandoned in the jungle as a child. Marina Chapman, who believes she is about 50 years old, says the colony of capuchin monkeys treated her as their adopted daughters. She says they taught her to scale trees and catch birds and rabbits with her bare hands. She spent 5 years with the monkeys until she was discovered by a hunter. She is currently writing a book entitled The Girl with No Name, due to be released in Britain next year. A television documentary is also in the works about her remarkable story. According to experts, monkeys are known to accept young humans into their groups, and there have been several other recorded incidents of this happening.
Really?
What do you think of that?
I can't believe she remembers it. 5 years old? Really?
Crazy.
Well, it looks like that's all we have for you tonight. I'm Margaret Bruetsch.
And I'm Peter Malavenda. Thanks for stopping by.